games people play. Introduction. The Games People Play by Eric Berne is a groundbreaking book that explores the psychology of human interactions through the lens of transactional analysis. Berne introduces the concept of games and demonstrates how they impact our relationships with others. He examines the various roles that individuals play in games, the ways in which games are linked to preconceived patterns of behavior, and the impact of games on intimacy and autonomy. This book has been widely influential in the field of psychology and continues to be a seminal work in the study of human relationships. Part 1: Social Life as a Game. Chapter 1: Critical Crossroad: What Games Are. In this chapter, Berne sets the stage for the rest of the book by introducing the concept of games and defining what he means by the term. He argues that games are a fundamental part of human interaction, and that they are played by people of all ages and backgrounds. Berne defines games as a series of transactions which are superficially plausible, ingeniously illogical, and, for the most part, socially or psychologically destructive. He argues that games are essentially a way of avoiding honest communication and maintaining a certain degree of control over social interactions. Berne also provides an overview of the three parts of the book. In Part 1, he explores the social aspect of games and how they are learned in childhood. In Part 2, he examines the anatomy of games, including the different roles that individuals play in games and the ways in which games can come to an end. In Part 3, he discusses game-free living, including the importance of autonomy, spontaneity, and intimacy in relationships. Overall, Chapter 1 serves as an important introduction to the concept of games and sets the stage for the rest of the book. By defining what he means by the term and providing an overview of the different parts of the book, Berne helps readers understand the importance of games in human interaction and the ways in which they can be both constructive and destructive. Chapter 2: A Child's Garden of Games. In this chapter, Berne examines the ways in which children learn to play games, and how these games are influenced by family dynamics and cultural norms. Berne argues that games are an essential part of human socialization, and that children learn to play games from a very young age. He suggests that games can be seen as a way of testing and exploring social roles and relationships, and that they serve as a means of communication and negotiation. According to Berne, the family is a crucial environment in which children learn to play games. He suggests that children are taught certain games by their parents and other family members, and that these games reflect the family's values and beliefs. For example, children from families that value competition may be taught to play competitive games, while children from families that value cooperation may be taught to play cooperative games. Berne also notes that cultural norms and expectations can influence the games that children learn to play. He suggests that different cultures may have different ideas about what kinds of games are appropriate for children, and that these cultural norms can shape the way that children learn to interact with others. Overall, Chapter 2, A Child's Garden of Games provides insight into the ways in which children learn to play games and the role that games play in socialization. By examining the influence of family dynamics and cultural norms on childhood games, Berne highlights the importance of understanding the social context in which games are learned and played. Chapter 3: Adult Games and Marital Gaming. His section of the book delves into the anatomy of games, including the different roles that individuals play in games and the ways in which games can come to an end. In this chapter, Berne discusses the different types of games that adults play in their relationships, including sexual games, marital games, and underworld games. Berne argues that these games often have a destructive impact on relationships and can lead to feelings of resentment and hostility between partners. For example, sexual games involve using sex as a way to manipulate or control one's partner, while marital games involve using emotional or psychological tactics to gain power or control in the relationship. Underworld games, on the other hand, are more extreme and involve criminal or deviant behavior, such as fraud or drug abuse. Berne suggests that these games are often played by individuals who feel powerless or disenfranchised in society and use these games as a way to gain a sense of control or autonomy. Overall, Berne emphasizes the importance of recognizing and understanding the games that individuals play in their relationships, as well as the scripts that underlie these games. He argues that by becoming aware of these patterns of behavior, individuals can take steps to change them and develop healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Regenerate response. Part 2. The Anatomy of Games. Chapter 4. Games and Scripts. In this chapter, Berne explores the relationship between games and scripts, which are preconceived patterns of behavior that individuals learn from their parents and other authority figures. Berne argues that games are a way of acting out scripts, and that the structure and dynamics of games are closely tied to the scripts that underlie them. He also suggests that individuals often have a preferred set of games that they play repeatedly, which are influenced by their scripts. Berne further explains that scripts can have a powerful influence on the way individuals perceive themselves and others, as well as their behavior in relationships. For example, if an individual learned a script in which they were constantly criticized or made to feel inadequate by a parent, they may be more likely to play a game in which they seek out relationships in which they can be victimized or criticized. By understanding the relationship between games and scripts, Berne argues that individuals can gain insight into their own behavior and the behavior of others, as well as make changes to their scripts and break free from destructive patterns of behavior. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 of The Games People Play, Eric Berne examines the different roles that individuals play in games. He identifies three primary roles: persecutor, rescuer, and victim, and explains how individuals may switch between these roles during the course of a game. According to Berne, the persecutor role involves taking a dominant or aggressive position in a game. This can involve criticizing, blaming, or attacking another player in order to gain a sense of power or control. The rescuer role, on the other hand, involves taking a nurturing or caretaking position in a game. This can involve helping or rescuing another player in order to gain a sense of purpose or validation. Finally, the victim role involves taking a helpless or powerless position in a game. This can involve being passive or submissive in order to gain sympathy or avoid responsibility. Berne explains that individuals may switch between these roles in a game depending on their own psychological needs and the needs of the other players. For example, a person may start out in the rescuer role, but then switch to the victim role when they feel overwhelmed or helpless. Alternatively, a person may start out in the victim role, but then switch to the persecutor role when they feel angry or resentful. By understanding these different roles and the ways in which individuals may switch between them, Berne suggests that individuals can gain insight into their own behavior and the behavior of others, as well as break free from destructive patterns of interaction in their relationships. Chapter 6. The End of the Game. He argues that games can be brought to a close through a variety of means, including through the use of rackets. Berne defines a racket as an action taken to gain an advantage or to avoid losing in a game. These actions may involve manipulation, deception, or other forms of dishonesty in order to achieve one's goals. Berne suggests that individuals may resort to rackets when they feel threatened or vulnerable, or when they believe that they cannot win the game through legitimate means. Berne notes that the use of rackets can have negative consequences for individuals and their relationships. They can erode trust, create resentment, and perpetuate destructive patterns of interaction. However, he also suggests that the recognition of rackets can be a useful tool in helping individuals to break free from these patterns and to create healthier relationships. In addition to rackets, Berne also identifies several other ways in which games can come to an end, including through mutual agreement, through a change in the game's rules or objectives, or through the intervention of a third party. By understanding these different mechanisms of game closure, Berne suggests that individuals can gain greater insight into their own behavior and the behavior of others, as well as develop strategies for ending games in a healthy and constructive manner. Part 3. Game-Free Living. Chapter 7, Autonomy. In Chapter 7, Eric Berne focuses on the concept of autonomy, which he defines as the ability to make choices and take responsibility for one's own life. Berne argues that autonomy is a crucial element of psychological health, and that individuals who lack autonomy are likely to become caught up in games and other destructive patterns of behavior. Berne identifies several different factors that can contribute to a lack of autonomy, including cultural and societal expectations, family dynamics, and personal psychology. He suggests that individuals who lack autonomy may be prone to seeking out rescuers or persecutors, or may become stuck in roles such as victim or martyr. Berne suggests that achieving autonomy requires a willingness to take risks, to confront one's own fears and limitations, and to accept the consequences of one's actions. He argues that individuals who are able to cultivate a strong sense of autonomy are more likely to be successful in their personal and professional lives, as well as in their relationships. Berne also discusses the role of therapy in helping individuals to develop autonomy. He suggests that therapy can provide a safe and supportive environment in which individuals can explore their own feelings and motivations, and can begin to take steps towards greater self-awareness and self-determination. By developing a stronger sense of autonomy, individuals can begin to break free from destructive patterns of behavior and create healthier and more fulfilling lives. Chapter 8. Spontaneity. In this chapter, Berne argues that spontaneity is essential for healthy relationships because it allows individuals to express their true feelings and thoughts without the influence of games or social norms. He explains that games often prevent people from being spontaneous because they force individuals to adopt specific roles and patterns of behavior that may not reflect their true selves. Berne also discusses the idea of stroke economy, which refers to the exchange of positive and negative feedback in relationships. He explains that games can often create a deficit in stroke economy, where one partner receives more negative feedback than positive, leading to resentment and hostility. Berne encourages individuals to strive for spontaneity in their relationships by being open and honest with their thoughts and feelings, and by avoiding games that create barriers to authentic communication. He suggests that individuals should aim for a balance of positive and negative strokes in their relationships, and should work towards achieving a healthy stroke economy. Chapter 9. Intimacy. In this chapter, Berne explores the concept of intimacy and how it is affected by games. He argues that intimacy is essential for human connections and that games can prevent individuals from forming genuine, meaningful relationships with others. Berne suggests that games create a false sense of intimacy by allowing individuals to adopt specific roles and engage in scripted interactions. These interactions may provide a temporary feeling of closeness, but ultimately prevent individuals from developing true intimacy with each other. Berne also discusses the idea of stroking through intimacy, which refers to the exchange of positive feedback and physical touch in intimate relationships. He argues that games often prevent individuals from experiencing stroking through intimacy because they create barriers to authentic communication and physical touch. To achieve genuine intimacy, Berne suggests that individuals must be willing to be vulnerable and open with each other. They must be willing to communicate honestly and without the influence of games or social norms. By doing so, individuals can create authentic connections and experience the positive effects of stroking through intimacy. Conclusion. The Games People Play is a classic work that provides valuable insights into the psychology of human interactions. Berne's exploration of the ways in which games impact our relationships with others is as relevant today as it was when the book was first published. By understanding the dynamics of games, individuals can learn to identify and avoid destructive patterns of behavior, and develop more authentic connections with others. This book is a must-read for anyone interested in the psychology of human relationships and is sure to have a lasting impact on readers for years to come.